everybody, welcome to Phenovelnoms. Phenovenom. Do 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 do. Phenovenom. Do 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 do. Phenovenom. Do 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 do. So this week I got a recipe from a good friend of mine for the most delicious potato soup, and just the thought of it with the cheese and the bacon and the creaminess of the potatoes, it just reminds me of comfort food to the hilt. But the first thing that came to mind was this book, and it is American Primitive by Mary Oliver. She's my favoriteest poet. I have every single one of her books, but this was the first one I owned, and she writes very simply, and she writes mostly about nature, and I thought it was perfect to go with the potato soup because it's a simple recipe. It's probably something that you have all the ingredients already in your house, so you don't have to make anything that's, you know, contrived or fancy or anything like that, but it tastes good and it feels good, just like reading Mary Oliver. So today we're gonna think about Mary Oliver and her simplicity and the layers of the beauty that is the amazing world that she creates with her words, and we're gonna create an amazing potato soup. Okay, let's go. Okay, every great recipe that has anything to do with comfort food starts with bacon. As you know, cheaper is not always better, and I only needed a half a pound, and I didn't need a whole thing of bacon, which was like $6 for a pound of bacon. But for like $2 something, I got good bacon from the meat counter. If you're vegetarian and you don't want to eat bacon, you don't have to eat bacon. That's the beauty of this recipe, is it can be completely vegetarian. No bacon. I'm just going to chop it about that big. So while I'm getting the pan hot for the bacon, I'm going to call my sous chef a la my husband, and he's going to come in and peel the potatoes for me because I'm dangerous with knives, and he's good at it, and he's super fast. Watch. Thank you. How great was that? And I'm saving the potato peels with some water because they will brown just like potatoes will, because we're going to use those. I'm going to throw in my bacon. And I'm going to let that cook and get happy. Now, while it's doing that, I want to take my potatoes and I want to cut them into 3/4 inch chunks. They say that smells are the biggest memory trigger. Lesson, don't point at yourself with a sharp knife. I'm going to put all those potatoes into a bowl of water. I don't want them to brown. Make sure to keep an eye on the bacon. You want it to get crispy because we're going to use what renders off of the pork. We're going to use that for something extra yummy. And so while that's cooking, and I don't want to start combining a lot of things, so I want to get out my big pot. Now, this recipe calls for chicken broth. I actually didn't have any in my pantry, and I want to make a point that you don't have to go shopping every time. I do have chicken bouillon, which I'm going to use. I'm going to use a little bit less because it's salty, so I don't want to, you know, add that. I want to add the flavor on my own, so I'm going to put a little bit less than normal so I just have that chicken background. If you are vegetarian, use vegetable stock. You could use water, it just won't be as flavorful. Bacon's pretty much done. There's not really much white, like the fat has rendered off a lot. So I'm going to use a slotted utensil, put it on a paper towel. I put the burner on about 2/3, 3/4 of the way up. Remember those potato skins? Now we're going to go drain them really well. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to put these in the bacon grease. You may be saying to yourself, that's bacon, that's bad for me. You're going to cook those in the bacon, that's bad for me too. But this is going to be a topping to the soup. So really it's either for your guests or for your family or for you just to put on as you can control. So it's not going to go in the soup. Now you don't want to put too many in there at once because you don't want to crowd the pan. If you crowd the pan, you're going to steam them, you're not going to fry them. Put one little layer on the bottom. So you'll know when they're done because they'll actually be brown around the edges like potato chips. You take them, put them on the, whatchamacallit. We're going to put them on paper towel with the bacon. Alright, we're not done with that bacon grease yet. You're going to need 1 large onion. I'm going to chop this up. And the onion is going to go right into that pan where your potatoes and your bacon just came out of. And we're going to cook them until they're golden. Not fried to hell, just golden. The onions are a golden color. I'm going to add into the onions garlic powder and some of that gluten-free flour. You can use regular flour. I'm immediately going to start moving it around and coating the onions in that flour and garlic mixture. Because we're making what's called a roux. What it is it's a thickening agent. It's what's going to help us thicken up our soup. So I'm just going to let the flour kind of react to the heat a little bit. React. And then take it off the heat because the flour will burn. That's off the heat. I'm going to open up a can of evaporated milk. The main recipe that I got this from uses heavy cream. It's really bad for you. It's like 6 grams of fat per serving, which is like a tablespoon. This has 1. So it's better for you. It's still thick. You're still going to get that rich flavor without the cost because it's probably about 1/3 of the cost and it's the same amount of taste and not any of the fat because we want that for the bacon. I'm going to put that giant pan on my burner. I'm going to add in those onions. Grab a whisk. I'm going to start adding in the evaporated milk. Okay, I don't know why this is doing this and it's freaking me the hell out because it's Halloween. I don't know, I'm sure there's something in physics that's making it do that, but I don't know why. I'm going to switch pots. I'm freaked out. Hold on. Okay, so I've got my broth and I've got my cream or my evaporated milk in there. And now I'm going to drain my potatoes. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to add my seasonings, which we've already got garlic in there, we've already got onion. We're going to add some salt and pepper in a moment, but first I'm going to add in, I don't know, probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons of rosemary. I love it. If you have fresh, use fresh. You could use thyme. I actually have a little coffee grinder that I use just for herbs, so I can grind those up. Rosemary is a like big giant like pine needle. I don't want to eat that. I'm gonna add in about 2 or 3 tablespoons of rosemary. I'm gonna add in some salt. And some pepper. I'm just going to stir it and bring it up to a boil. Because what will happen is the heat will, of the liquid, once it starts to bubble, will react with the flour that we put in there and kind of caramelize a little bit with the onions. And it will form a thicker base for your soup. So it'll start to kind of form like a gravy consistency or like a thick, creamy soup consistency. So it's boiling. So I'm going to crank that down so that it can just simmer. I want the potatoes to cook. It's going to take about 7 to 8 minutes. While that is cooking, I'm going to grate my cheese. I like to use a cheddar cheese, a sharp cheddar cheese for a very specific reason. I like the taste of it, but it's also got a very strong, obviously, sharp cheddar flavor. Now, you won't have to use as much cheese if you use a sharp cheddar because the flavor goes longer. So if you want to use a regular cheddar, you just have to use more. But this way, I get the same flavor, that beautiful cheesy flavor in my soup without all the extra fat calories. So my soup is ready. And the potatoes are done. I want to make sure that they're not crispy because you want to be able to blend them, and you won't be able to blend them if they're not cooked. Okay, so we're going to now blend the soup. I'm going to use my handy dandy hand mixer. You could use a blender, you could use a food processor, but I think this is easy and I don't dirty another dish. So you want to get that good and blended. Now you can leave chunks. You can leave chunks in there if you want big chunks. Some people do. Some people will actually keep out some of the chunks in a bowl on the side while they do this and then add those back in. Kind of like a smashed potato soup. It's totally up to you. Now I'm going to add in the cheese that I grated up before. Remember, this is sharp cheddar. So we're going to add that in a little bit at a time and let it melt into the soup. So we've got that cheese all blended up in there, and a little by little, that way you won't get big fat clumps of cheese, unless you want big fat clumps of cheese. Sour cream. This is where you, again, can save on calories. I used regular full fat cheese. I used the evaporated milk, so I don't have as much of the fat there. So I'm kind of like bargaining with myself. If I did all fat-free stuff, it would taste kind of gross. But I'm going to do full light sour cream. I did regular cheese, and I did the evaporated milk. So I want to kind of pick and choose where I want my fat and my calories from. Life's too short for fat-free cheese. I'm going to blend it in. Make sure you turn down the stove, because it's like barely even on. It's like on low, so it's going to keep it warm while I get my bowl ready. Spoon some of that in there. And on top, I'm going to sprinkle some of that crispy bacon and some of those little crispy potato skins that we cooked earlier. Just put a bowl of them on the table and let people put what they want on there. You could put scallions, you could do fresh tomato, you could do salsa, a little salsa on top. You could do so many yummy things. This is like the yummiest thing that ever lived or was eaten. Great thing about great simple ingredients is that you can taste them when they're all mixed together. There's nothing complicated. You can taste the rosemary, you can taste the cheddar cheese, the sour cream, but it all is like this beautifully layered soup that will impress the heck out of your friends. But I'm going to enjoy my amazing Mary Oliver American Primitive poems, which are comforting and warm and wonderful and simple and just kind of are my like touchstone when I want something that just kind of makes me feel good, just like this soup, which is exactly like that. It's so rich and creamy. It's really thick. It's really hearty. A lot of people don't like soup for dinner or for a meal. This can stand all by itself. So freaking good. I'm gonna eat this soup, read my book, and conjure up something awesome to make for you next time on Phenovelnoms. Okay.